Marcus Johnson was only 14, leaving basketball practice late, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder. But three boys in red jackets were waiting, sons of families who ran the town. They didn't just block his path, they reminded him with every word and shove that his skin marked him as different, as less. Marcus made it home that night, but not unchanged. His silence became a story too many knew, but too few told. This isn't just about one boy cornered in a hallway. It's about generations scarred by the same cruelty. And the question that lingers: how many more Marusas before silence finally breaks? Before we dive into this suspenseful story, drop a comment with your city so we can see how far it reaches. And if you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe my channel. He was only 14, just another kid trying to survive high school, blending into the noise of crowded hallways and endless homework. But in one night, his world would be flipped upside down. Not because of anything he did, not because of any mistake he made, but because of the color of his skin. It started as an ordinary evening, the kind you don't think twice about. Yet by the time it was over, it would become the kind of story that forces you to question everything you thought you knew about safety, justice, and the truth of what it means to be different in a world that doesn't always accept you. This is his story, and once you hear it, you'll never forget it. Marcus was a quiet kid. He didn't chase popularity. He didn't look for trouble. He wanted to be himself. His days were filled with basketball practices, video games with friends, and long talks with his dad about school, about life, about dreams. His father, a man who had worked hard all his life, often reminded him that strength wasn't just about muscles. It was about how you carried yourself, how you treated others when no one was watching. Marcus listened. He admired his dad's steady presence and carried those lessons with him everywhere. At school, he kept to himself for the most part, never the loudest in the room, never the one causing scenes. But that didn't shield him. It never really does. The truth is, Marcus lived with a quiet awareness that he was different. He noticed how teachers looked at him a little longer when something went missing, how some parents pulled their kids a little closer when he walked by, how jokes whispered in locker rooms always seemed to land on him. Still, he tried to brush it off, tried to believe it wasn't as bad as it felt. Until one night, it was late after practice, and Marcus had stayed behind to shoot a few extra baskets. The gym was nearly empty, the echo of the ball bouncing against, the floor filling the space. He liked it that way, peaceful, quiet, a moment of control in a world that often felt unpredictable. But when he left the gym, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, that peace began to unravel. Three older boys were waiting just outside. Red jackets, sharp smirks, eyes that followed him like predators. At first, he thought nothing of it, just kids hanging around. But when they stepped closer, blocking his path, the air grew heavy. Their laughter wasn't friendly. It was mocking, cruel. They called out his name, but not with respect. They twisted it, stretched it into something ugly. Marcus tried to keep walking, heart beating faster, but the footsteps followed. One of them shoved him lightly, as if testing, waiting for a reaction. Another leaned in closer, whispering slurs that burned worse than any shove. And then the third stepped right in front of him, finger pointed inches from his face, voice dripping with poison. "You don't belong here." The words cut deeper than the shove ever could. Marcus froze. He wanted to shout back, to demand. Why? To fight. But his father's warnings echoed in his head. Don't let anger decide for you. He stayed still, but they didn't stop. The taunts grew louder, more aggressive. His heart pounded. His palms were sweating. Every instinct screamed to run. But where would he go? They had him surrounded. The laughter rang in his ears, the sound of power being abused, the sound of cruelty feeding on fear. He clenched his fists, not to strike, but to keep from shaking. He looked around, hoping someone would step in, but the hallway was empty, the world silent. It was just him, trapped. The pressure mounted. One boy shoved harder this time, sending Marcus stumbling back into the wall. His bag fell to the floor. The red jackets loomed over him like shadows, eyes cold, lips curled into smirks. It told him this wasn't just about tonight. This was about reminding him of his place, reminding him of what they thought he was worth. And then it peaked. One of them raised his fist, hovering there, a threat dangling in the air. Marcus's breath stopped. He stared at that hand, every muscle in his body coiled tight, waiting for the blow that could change everything. The world seemed to pause. In that frozen second, Marcus understood the truth. He could do everything right, follow every rule, stay silent, stay calm, and still end up here, cornered by hate he never asked for. The injustice wasn't in the punch that might land, it was in the fact that it could happen at all. And just when the blow seemed inevitable, a sound broke the tension. A door creaking open at the far end of the hall. Someone was coming. The boys dropped their hands, masks of arrogance slipping back into casual grins as if nothing had happened. They walked away slowly, leaving Marcus pressed against the wall, chest heaving, fists trembling at his sides. Marcus walked out of that gym with shaky steps, every breath still heavy, every echo of their laughter carved into his chest. On the surface, the night ended without broken bones or hospital visits. But inside, something had been fractured. Something harder to repair than any bruise. The silence he carried home that evening was louder than any scream. Yet, as the hours passed, silence turned to reflection. He thought about his father's stories, about generations who had endured far worse, about the strength they had shown when the world tried to strip it away. He realized that while those boys had cornered him physically, they hadn't defined him. Their words were designed to make him small, but Marcus began to understand. His existence itself was proof of resilience. The next day, whispers traveled through the halls. Some had seen the closed gym doors, some had heard the shouting, and slowly the truth trickled out. Teachers noticed the shift in Marcus's demeanor. Friends asked questions, and before long, the confrontation wasn't a secret anymore. For the first time, those who had laughed at the jokes or looked away when trouble started began to feel uncomfortable. Because now, the cruelty had a face. It had a story. And it wasn't so easy to ignore. Marcus stood taller in the days that followed, not because the pain vanished, but because he realized he was not powerless. He spoke up, he told his story, and in doing so, he forced others to look at what so many prefer to turn away from. The bullies didn't expect that. They thought intimidation would silence him. Instead, it lit a fire. And while justice, in situations like his, is rarely clean or complete, something shifted. Adults took notice. Conversations were sparked. For some, it was uncomfortable. For others, it was the first time they truly listened. Marcus's experience became more than a personal wound. It became a mirror, reflecting the prejudice still woven into daily life, the kind that hides in classrooms, locker rooms, and neighborhoods. The impact wasn't only on him, it rippled outward. Every student who heard their story had to choose, stay silent, or stand on the side of what's right. Every adult had to ask, how many times has this happened before, unnoticed? And Marcus himself carried a lesson he would never forget. One that would shape the way he moved through the world. One that whispered to him every time he doubted himself. You are not what they call you. You are who you choose to become. This story is about one boy, one night, one gym. But in truth, it's about all of us. Because Marcus's story is repeated in countless forms, in countless places, to countless voices that don't always get heard. The real question isn't what happened to him, it's what we're willing to do when we see it happen again. So, I'll leave you with this. How many more Maruks will it take before silence turns into change? And when the next story like his unfolds, will you look away? Or will you be the one who finally speaks up?